Hello, how are we doing today? Really excited to be live again. This is the first live for the month of May and also Melanoma May, which I think is a really good day for me and Leah to catch up. Her and I went live last July, so we're like way overdue for a chat. So it's going to be a real good live. We've got it all planned out. We're ready to go. I mean, we are ready to go, guys. We have a lot going on, so I'm really excited to be here today. And whenever she comes in, we will start. How is May going for everyone? There's a lot going on. I know there's a lot of different pages, a lot of different content going around, a lot of stories being told, which makes me really happy. I love seeing all the faces. I think she's coming in right about now, maybe. A lot of faces coming in. Hello, everybody. There she is.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. How are we?
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Nice shirt. You looking good.
Thanks. Somebody gave it to me.
We're so cute. I can't. Okay. So what's going on? What are we doing today? Why don't you tell everybody? You just kick it off.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to Melanoma Awareness and Skin Cancer Awareness Month, #1. And #2, Katie and I have done Instagram Lives in the past, and we thought that, why not do it again? I mean, because we love doing them. You guys love when we do them, so might as well. But this year we thought about having kind of a theme to our lives. And I know we've done this in the past with themes, but this month in particular, we really wanted to emphasize the importance of sun safety, specifically sunscreen, or, what the benefits are of sunscreen. So this is going to be the first of 3 lives that we are going to be doing this month, which is very exciting. So stay tuned for the other lives that will be happening later on this month. But today we are really just talking about sunscreen, the importance of sunscreen, some myths around sunscreen and the misinformation out there. And we just kind of want to address, what those are, the common misconceptions of sunscreen, bring in the facts. And then we also have a special surprise at the end that involves a giveaway of some sunscreen.
And these sunscreens are me and Leah's top favorite. So we decided to do this kind of like a different type of way. This type of giveaway is going to be one that you can buy at the grocery store or drugstore. So it's easy to get, handy. We'll give you kind of like why I chose mine, why she chose hers, and then the winner will get both of them. So that's really exciting. And then you guys, whoever is this lucky winner at the end, can give us kind of some feedback on it. I would love to know what they think of it and if they like it as well. So I was telling everybody our last live chat was last July. So it was like for UV awareness. So this is like a long overdue, almost a full year. So I'm really excited to be able to chat again. So we're going to talk about sunscreen, but we're not going to just be like reading facts and just we're going to try and keep it fun and entertaining and lightweight. So like we said, we got this organized. We're trying to keep this informative but fun. So with that being said, we're going to start by kicking off the basics. So go ahead, Leah. Tell us a little bit about the basics.
Yeah, so sunscreen, also known as sun protective or protection factor, SPF, is something that everybody should be wearing, no matter what your age is or your skin or anything like that. It is something that you should be wearing daily, whether it is winter, summer, spring, sunny day, cloudy day. And, nowadays we're in 2024, there are so many different products of sunscreen out there. There's mineral sunscreen, there's chemical sunscreen, and we'll talk a little bit about the differences between those. But we are fortunate to, in this country of, the US, have a lot of access to a lot of different sunscreens. However, there are some challenges also, being in the US with sunscreen as well. And we'll also talk about that later on in the live. But
I do want to just emphasize real quick, neither one of us are doctors. Please just let that be clear. We are just giving what we have learned and our personal experience, especially just coming from advocacy days. So just want to put that out there. We always just want everyone to be wearing it regardless. So just take whatever you can learn from us. You can also find the information. We'll tell you where to find everything we're talking about, because this is all stuff that can be found, all this content. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I am not a dermatologist and neither is Katie. So I appreciate that disclaimer 100%. And actually a lot of what we are going to be sharing today is from, if anybody's interested, the source is mainly the Association of American Dermatology and the AAD, which is a great resource to use. Yes, they are always making sure that they're updating their website and their social media pages, and they actually support and guide dermatologists, which are obviously professionals that help keep us safe. So it's a extremely trustworthy and reputable source where you can get that type of information. So sunscreen, as we know, is one of many ways that we can protect our skin. There's different types of sunscreens, and usually SPF sunscreens have a certain number that coincides with it. So there is as low as, I remember back before my melanoma days, there is like an SPF, there is a SPF as low as, I believe, 4 out there, which you don't want that. You want something usually
at least 30. I say at least 15 to 30. 15 is low, but 30 is like key.
Yes. And actually I read recently, I don't know if this was from the AAD or another source, but when you age, you're actually supposed to even go higher. So as you age, your SPF is supposed to kind of go with you.
That makes sense.
So I think they recommend, people that are like 35 to 45 to actually go closer to the SPF 50 range, because the higher the number, the more, how do I explain this in simple terms? The higher the number of the sunscreen, it doesn't mean that it's
going to work any better.
Correct. Yeah. It's just, it has to do with the amount of time you're out in the sun. And that is the amount of minutes that you are protected for before you have to reapply. So for example, if you are wearing SPF 30 and let's say you're sitting under the shade, wearing SPF 30, you're not really sweating, you're just kind of hanging out there, you can go a little bit longer than 30 minutes and not have to reapply. But if you're somebody like me, and there are days where I'm on a run longer than 30 minutes, and if I'm only wearing SPF 30, that could be risky, because that means that I am sweating off that SPF, I'm needing to reapply, and that's why usually when I run, I try to wear SPF 40, 50, and I've even used 60 and 70 as well. Because you got to do what you got to do. But that's
and I'm super fair skin, like super fair, so I'm always trying to do it like a 30 on my face for sure. My body is typically like in the like 50s, just to be safe. 30 is like if I'm going to the grocery store and back, just a simple little thing. And you want to wear one that you're in love with and you're going to wear daily. And it kind of takes some trial and error to find the one we love. Like I've gone through different types, many different types, thrown some out, bought other ones. And the goal of us talking about this is for you not only to learn something, but maybe to enlighten on a style or like the 30, the 50, what is your skin type and things like that. So we just want you to wear it at the end of the day.
Yeah. And Katie, you bring up a really good point, because not only are there so many brands out there that make different types of sunscreen, there are different ways sunscreen is being made,
Yeah.
right? So now you're seeing more makeup
Yeah.
products have SPF in it. You're seeing more like oily SPFs.
Yeah.
There's cream
Spray kind. Yeah.
SPFs. Exactly, spray. And, you know, honestly, at the end of the day, I'm sure, Katie, you get this question very frequently too. People ask me all the time, you know, what is the best type of sunscreen?
Yeah.
And I will say it's the one you remember to wear and
Yeah.
put on. And like to your point, Katie, as well, it's okay to kind of do trial and error with SPF. You
Yeah.
know, some SPFs work on me that will not work on others,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So it really comes down to the individual.
Yeah, because some sunscreens have a white cast, which so many of them do. And for me, like my personal preference, I only choose an SPF that has a zinc content. That's my personal preference. I don't like all the other fillers. I mean, there's a history with all that stuff that I'm sure everybody has read. But my preference is the ingredients have to be zinc. But that might not be the case for someone else. They might just be the cheapest brand or trust one. But it is really good to do your research on sunscreen to learn about it, because it's a lot bigger than just buy it, grab off the shelf and go. It's not all sunscreens are treated the same. Not all are rated the same. There's so much more to it. And like for me personally, when it comes to makeup, I don't use a makeup with an SPF. I prefer to put on the SPF and then the makeup. Some people love it, and I highly recommend that we're not mixing the two, the SPF with the makeup and stirring it in a little thing and putting it on. You're going to dilute that SPF and it's not going to give you that coverage that you're looking for. So you kind of need to, I think, dive into the world of SPF. I think it's a very enlightening topic. It sure woke me up. I can tell you that much once I started learning about it. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's so much to be spoken about. The strength of it. Does it lose its strength when you're, putting it on with, do we mix them? There's so many things that go into it. So, um, why don't you just tell me like the difference, if you could, real quick, about like chemical and physical? Because I think a lot of people just don't understand those two differences.
Yeah.
And or mineral, I'm sorry. What's the difference? What do you think are like the pros or cons? And
Yeah. So I learned a lot about sunscreen, just like you, Katie, after dealing with melanoma.
mhm,
And, you know, like you mentioned, there's mineral sunscreen, also known as, you know, physical
yeah.
sunscreen, and then there's chemical sunscreen. So, um, I'll start with mineral sunscreen. Mineral sunscreens are usually, Katie mentioned a really good word, or element, zinc oxide.
Mhm,
Usually mineral sunscreen has a zinc base, and that zinc base is actually partially responsible for the white cast that you usually
right.
see with mineral sunscreens. Now, that depends on how much zinc or zinc oxide is in that mineral slash physical sunscreen. But I will say, as time has gone on, there are really good mineral sunscreens out
Mhm,
there. You may have to pay a little bit more for them,
yeah.
but they will go on white and then dry like clear, invisible, which is really, really nice for those that are impacted by white cast. I'm one of
Yeah.
those people.
Yeah.
I don't really love
Me
white
neither.
cast. So, you know, I have to really
Trial and
be
error.
very,
Trial
yeah,
and error.
yes, trial and error. I have to be really cautious of the mineral
Yeah.
sunscreen. So that's kind of mineral sunscreens. Mineral sunscreens, another big thing why a lot of people tend to lean towards mineral sunscreens is because it is safer generally for our oceans
Yeah.
and our reef and our planet, because they do not contain chemicals that are destroying our oceans and our wildlife and the reef, you know, stuff. So that's mineral sunscreen. And then there's chemical sunscreens, which are more obviously shocking, chemical based. So there's a lot more different chemicals. So we actually did an episode on a podcast recently, the top 5 on the Tide, and we talked about the history of sunscreen, and it's actually pretty cool. So
it is really cool how it was like discovered and how they did it. I actually, that's funny you brought that up because I talked about that story like 2 years ago, and I was like, wow, I don't think I ever realized like how it was developed and the history it took. It took a couple, you know, decades to get it where it is today. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. It's just a cool story.
No, I figured you knew about it, but it basically it's back to like the BC times, and it was from the Greeks were actually the ones that were using sunscreen, specifically zinc oxide, and they were using it to cool their skin, protect their skin from the sun, and that's literally where it came from. And then you were like, wow, like this is crazy, and so people started to see the benefits of zinc oxide. But then as time went on, people discovered that there are ways to make other different types of sunscreen. That's when chemical sunscreen kind of came on the scene. Now, chemical sunscreen, there are, I'm sure listeners and viewers are aware of it, there is a huge controversy like with mineral sunscreen and chemical sunscreen. And I try to stay in the middle of it because I will be honest, I do love some chemical sunscreens and I do love some mineral. And Katie, I know you lean more towards mineral.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is what I always say. And again, I am not a dermatologist, but based off of my own experience and professionals I have spoke with on this, there has to be something in a product that's going to protect you from the sun, whether that is zinc oxide or whether that are the chemicals that are in chemical sunscreen. And, you know, obviously there are safer chemicals than others. There are like a list, I don't have it off the top of my head, but there are like 5 to 7 chemicals that are in chemical sunscreen that you want to try to stay away from that could impact your health in, you know, other ways. But that's kind of the difference between mineral and chemical. Katie, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I will tell you some of the things to avoid, like for me personally, that I avoid is oxybenzone, avobenzone, and octinoxate. Those like, and then I think there's 2 more. It's like homosalate or something like that. Don't quote me on the words, by the way, but there are those, and for me personally, if I see it, I don't buy it. I have just completely wiped it out of my day to day. But other people just, you know, they have their preference in the ones they love, and that's okay. But for me, the history, so much that I've learned over a course of time, it's just not for me. I do want to say back to the zinc, how some of them you can put it on and then you're rubbing and you're rubbing and you're rubbing forever and you still don't get it to rub in appropriately. Someone told me a trick the other day that like if you put it on your hand and actually warm it up like this, it actually smooths in a lot easier, because some of those sunscreens are super thick.
Yeah.
And you're putting it on and you're like, oh, good Lord, I'm going to be here for an hour rubbing it in. And if you actually warm it up, some of them will actually work and rub in a lot faster, especially for kids. Like you don't want to spend 2 hours sitting there rubbing on your kid until, you know, they have their sunscreen, they get frustrated and they don't want to do it. So for me, there are some sprays, and I'm against sprays with everything in me, but for me, there are sprays now that do, like if I had young kids now, that my preference of the zinc have a high zinc content. A lot of sunscreens are trying to change their chemicals in them, just because of this controversy between what is good and what is not. And I think we all just have to just wear it, try it, see which ones work for you. I have gone through so many, and I still love trying new sunscreens. It's fun for me. I enjoy trying new ones and going, okay, well, now I know it's not for me, you know, and I get rid of it. And yeah, I might be, you know, spending a little bit here and there, but I really try to not go overboard on price point too. Like the also we want to touch on is why we're doing this giveaway is we're trying to encourage SPFs that you can go get at the drugstore that are reasonably priced, which is, you know, us trying to get you to wear it, you know, at the end of the day. And there's a lot we can dive into. It goes on forever, but let me just see this comment real quick. There's one up here that we missed. My dermatologist says to use it as a base and then do my makeup. If this isn't recommended, what's the best thing to do for wearing SPF and makeup together? I wear it, like I said, I put SPF on. I let it dry so it's not tacky or sticky, if that's the type of SPF, and then I put my makeup on.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I guess it is kind of a base, as she's saying. I don't know if you do it differently.
No, I do it the same. And then what I've also seen as well, if you are going to be, let's say you do your makeup in the morning, and let's say you have a 8 to 10 hour work day at an event outside or something like that, or maybe it's not a work day, you're just going to be outside and you want to reapply. There are a lot of, oh gosh, I think the company is called Brush on Block, which is a SPF, like it's a powdered, it looks like a little, like a brush bottle.
Yep.
And that's something that you could, because you don't want to like put your sunscreen again on over your makeup, because then you have to redo your makeup. So there are options, you know, for you to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or another thing to consider as well, I know we're talking just about sunscreen today, but again, that is why UPF 50 clothing exists as well.
Yeah.
Wear a hat, making sure you're seeking out shade as much as possible if you are unable to, you know, find an opportunity to reapply. But I am like you, Katie. I mean, the first thing I'm putting on my face every day is the SPF, making sure it dries.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how your skin is as well. Another thing for you to think about too is what type of makeup are you putting on top of the SPF? So are you using a powder-based makeup with your foundation, concealer, bronzer, all that kind of stuff? Or are you using more of the cream-based?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it all comes down to your skin. Our skin is all different. For me, I use more cream-based, liquid-based like makeup because my skin's more dry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of how I do it. But again, yeah,
I totally agree with you. And we have other questions in there, and I will promise we will go over them, but I just wanted to touch on that just because we were talking about it earlier. Mm-hmm. So getting back onto what we were saying, one of the things we kind of touched on a little bit is who does need sunscreen? Honestly, everyone. Not everyone, except for a baby under 6 months. You're not supposed to be putting SPF on them, but 6 months and older, yes, you can put SPF on them. So everybody needs to wear it. I mean, even if you're sitting next to a window, you will get rays, people. If you're in an airplane and you sit next to that window, they will be coming in. They will find you. They are sneaky, people. You need to be wearing it. It's just the way it is. I mean, I cannot say it enough. I do have those days. I'm not perfect where I forget to put it on. I'm human. We're all human, and there are times, but I do keep a little stick application in my purse. Make sure I don't leave my purse in the heat, obviously, because it will totally wipe that SPF out. So yeah, I mean, there are ways to always protect your skin. And I just think if you start, you kind of just, it's kind of like if you're wearing makeup, if you brush your hair, if you wash your face, it's a little step that you just slide into your routine. It's really easy, takes 2 seconds. It's like putting on body lotion, guys. You just put it on, no big deal, and you walk out of the house. Like it's really easy. So let's just start wearing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that can, like to your point, Katie, be easily integrated into your daily routine. And there was something I saw on Instagram. I think this was a couple years ago when I started getting involved in the melanoma community, and it was just a post that said, if you have skin, you should be wearing sunscreen, or
Yeah.
what days of the week should you wear sunscreen on? Any day that ends with Y. So every single day.
Right.
It's just like,
I
it's so
love that
true.
saying. Yeah.
And, I know that there's also I know we're going to get into kind of like myths and, what's real about, sunscreen and sun safety, but there is a very huge a piece of misinformation out there that people think, well, if I have a darker skin tone,
Yeah.
I don't need sunscreen because I won't burn, or I just
Yeah. I
get
have a lot of
darker.
melanin, so I don't need it.
Yeah. And,
False. False.
exactly, exactly false. Yeah, I mean, hate to break it to you, but that is false. And there are people of all skin tones and types that get melanoma, that can get skin cancer.
Yeah.
If you have skin, you could be at risk. Obviously, there are groups of people that are at a higher
Hmm.
risk. But again, I always say Bob Marley had skin cancer, and there's so many other people that are people of color or that have
Yeah.
darker skin or different types of ethnicities that have had skin cancer and melanoma. So it's super, super important that you are wearing that SPF. So find one that you love, find one that is affordable and accessible to you, and find one that you can also share with others and
Yeah.
encourage them to wear SPF too.
Yeah. And I do get the question a lot is, what do you recommend? What do you recommend? What do you recommend? And I would love to give you all of my favorites, but that doesn't mean it's going to turn out to be yours. And I think you said that earlier. I mean, I do have recommendations all the time, but it took me a long time to find favorites. Like it didn't just happen overnight, so you got to be kind of patient if you're like me and you want to get the right one, the one with the best protection, the one that you're going to feel safest in. Other people just wear it, put it on, and it's, they bought it for $5.99 at Walmart, so it just depends. It's just what you want to learn and what kind of protection you're really looking for, because this topic is so in depth. Like we could go for hours about it. And that's the thing about it. It's like we're just trying to go over the basics and let's just dive into UVA and UVB rays, broad spectrum, all those things.
Yeah.
So like UVA rays, if you want to think about it, it's like the aging. So I kind of link it to like UVA aging, like it just kind of goes hand in hand. So those are going to give you the fine lines, the wrinkles, all the things that everybody really hates. So if you hate wrinkles, I mean, hello, wear that sunscreen. It's funny because I went out with my daughter for her 21st birthday and people thought we were sisters. And I'm not saying that to like toot my own horn here. I'm saying that because I do wear SPF all the time. I
Yeah.
haven't got any like Botox. I don't know. I wish I want to, but I have all. I give it all to sunscreen. I really truly do.
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s, people. Okay, I'm not getting any younger. I recognize that, but sunscreen is what saved me from aging in a lot of ways, and that's the UVA blocker that the SPF is doing. So why don't you dive into UVB?
Yeah. Well, I just want to make a comment, and I'm sure everybody also agrees with me. When I found out Katie was in her 40s, I was shook. I was like, there is no way. Like, and then I like started putting two and two together. I'm like, well, her daughters are like kind of older, so if she is that young, she probably had them really young. But yeah, no, sunscreen is doing wonders for you, honey. So I love it.
Thank you.
So great explanation on UVA and UVB rays. Katie mentioned the A for aging. Think of UVB for burning. So
Yeah.
UVB rays from the sun are really impacting your skin in the way that your skin burns. So that really painful red skin that you get when you're out in the sun, not protecting it with sunscreen or protective clothing, and sunburn is really bad. Yeah. And I know that I feel like in our society, sunburns have become like a joking matter. Like, oh, look at them. Like, they have an outline of the tank top they were wearing. Or I've even seen things online where they'll spell out a word or like
sticker.
Make a design.
Sticker. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even like with sunscreen. And then, when they're outside all day and they're not putting sunscreen everywhere just where the words or the little logo or whatever was, then that's looking like they have a tattoo on them. And it's like people are seeing it as comical. And what's not comical is that just having a few sunburns alone that are really bad, blistering, bubbling, can
Yes.
put you at a very high risk of melanoma. And so to me, that is nothing to laugh about. That is
Yeah.
not a joking matter because people are dying of melanoma. And when you start thinking about the things that you can be doing to prevent a sunburn, they are so easy that that shouldn't even be
Right.
happening. So, UVB rays and UVA rays both are very different. However, that is why, Katie, you mentioned the word broad spectrum. When you are looking for a sunscreen and an SPF, make sure that it says on that bottle broad spectrum, because that
Mm-hmm.
means that SPF is not only going to protect you from the UVA rays or the UVB, it's going to protect you from both
Yep.
together.
Yeah.
So that is really, really important. And because at the end of the day, to your point, Katie, nobody wants wrinkles. We want to stay as youthful as possible.
Right.
And nobody wants to be sunburned because
It
another
hurts.
thing
It's
too,
painful. It's
yes,
awful. And there's no safe tan, guys. No safe tan.
no
There's no
safe.
base tan. All that stuff is so, we've
Yep,
trashed all of those. So
it
act
is
like they don't exist or never were said. They're all
so true.
just, they need to go
So
away. Those
true.
comments, base tan,
Mhm.
safe tan, all that is just
Yeah.
bye bye.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, for viewers and listeners tuning in, like Katie mentioned, we are human. We're not perfect. I mean, I will be honest. I mean, I've had a lot of sunburns before melanoma, and I've had like a couple after
Yeah.
melanoma because sometimes you just don't realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to
Yeah.
reapply in the time span I should have reapplied, or, maybe I didn't put a lot on a cloudy day. But then you like start to really think, oh my goodness, like what organizations and reputable sources are telling us is true. Like you
Yeah.
can get sunburned on a cloudy day because as long as it's light outside, even if it's a cloudy day, the sun is out above those clouds
Yeah.
and the sun rays are penetrating through those clouds.
Right.
And especially too, one more thing, and then I'll get off my soapbox, is that when you're on an airplane, everybody, you're
Yeah.
higher up. And so higher elevation means you're closer to the sun. So it is a fact that people that do not wear sunscreen that are on a plane, specifically pilots
Yeah.
that work on a plane, they are at a much higher risk of developing skin cancer or melanoma. So again, just want to put that
Absolutely.
out there because no matter if you're up in the plane or on the ground, wear that SPF.
Yes. And I wanted to read this off of the American Academy of Dermatology because this is a really good touch on sunscreen. So it says that creams are best for dry skin and applying on the face. Gels are good for oily complexions, hairy areas such as like your scalp or like the male chest. Sticks are good to use like around your eyes throughout here. And then sprays are good. A lot of them are good for little kids because you can get them going, sprayed, and they can move on. Um, and tinted sunscreens, this is where the makeup thing, for me, I find tinted sunscreens to be very useful for like not using a concealer. I find a really good SPF that is tinted. That is my base makeup. Like I won't always put like a concealer over that because some of them are so good you don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so tinted sunscreens have become like my ultimate favorite. I really love them, especially for the summer because I feel like I have makeup on and I know I'm protected. So if you can, for the ladies that were asking about the makeup, if you can find a tinted SPF that covers you the way you want to, I highly recommend you go in a deep dive looking for one that you love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And Katie, I'm seeing some comments and questions come in. I don't know if we want to pause for,
Yeah, we can go through those real quick.
okay.
You want to find where we were last?
Yeah, let me just check here. Oh my gosh, so many comments, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I really do appreciate it, guys. So be
Awesome.
good for our giveaway. I'm excited.
Yes. Yes, a sunburn is not cute. Agreed.
Oh,
Um,
I think the next one is tips to deal with sunscreen during extreme hot days. I think that's the next one in line.
okay. I'm just out here reading the comments and all the waves and hearts. I'm like, oh, love you guys.
Go, hey, people! Waving, waving. Oh, that's so cute. Look at him. Okay. Waving. Okay. So, tips to deal with sunscreen during extreme hot days. Okay. I think I could cover this because I'm in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we're talking hot days, everyone. We're talking 115 degrees. It is extra hot here. So when we're looking at extreme weather, I don't rely all on sunscreen. I just don't. I don't think it's safe to just use an SPF as a protective guide. Because when you are like for me, let's go back. If I'm at a pool, let's say, and I'm trying to apply, I put on my SPF and then I go out and do some things. I would be so paranoid and feel like I would have to reapply earlier than every 2 hours because I'm pale. Now, people that maybe have a darker complexion might disagree with me on that, but it goes back to your body finding the one that works for you. I don't trust extreme heat and sunscreen. I'm going to be using extra protection, either a sun parasol that is like a UPF protective. I'm going to be in a UPF swimsuit or a UPF jacket. And trust me when I tell you, like, it's 115 degrees, I will still be in a long sleeve because there is breathable UPF clothing that you can wear that you don't feel like you're going, yes, you're going to sweat. It's 115 degrees. There's no way around that. But for me and my protective mental, for me to feel safe, for my mental state to be calm in hot weather, I am going to be wearing UPF and SPF. That's just me. Now, if
Yeah.
you don't have a lot of UPF clothing, there are some on Amazon that are relatively affordable that I've thoroughly enjoyed. But if you're solely relying on SPF, I highly recommend you're getting that zinc content and you're getting an SPF that is 30 or above and you're reapplying. The goal is to reapply. It comes down to that, period. If you're not going to wear UPF clothing, reapply it and reapply it and reapply it again because it's hot. That temperature is just like unavoidably dangerous. The UV index is probably going to be up in your eights, nines, and tens, and you're looking at dangerous weather. So I just overly protect yourself is my point.
Yeah. And I do the same. I mean, I live in Ohio, so definitely not to those extreme temperatures, but our summers get
Still
pretty
hot.
warm.
Yeah.
And, again, for me, I guess I can come from, working out outside and running
Yeah.
outside, even when it's not super, super hot, but I am sweating off my sunscreen.
Right.
I'm going to be training for a race soon, later on this year, and I'm already planning out, okay, what little small bottles of sunscreen can I put in my run? Basically, I wear kind of like a fanny
Yeah.
pack. And if I'm training and running 18 miles, I mean, I'm going to be out for a couple hours.
Right.
And so I need to have something on me that either is a lotion or a spray, what have you, just as I would make sure I brought water or a gel or
Mhm.
something like a little granola bar, something like that. I'm also going to bring sunscreen with me as well, because if I am sweating off that layer of protection, for my skin, then I need to reapply it,
Yeah.
as much as possible. So I can kind of, Katie can bring in the hot weather state and I can bring in the,
That outside
if you
running.
are,
Yeah.
an active person or hiker or biker or any of that kind of
Well, I'm sure
stuff.
your UV index still gets high. The summer is
Yeah.
hot for everyone, it's just different verities of that UV index, but it's everywhere. So, I mean, we're looking at um, temperatures that can be very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest and simplest way to manage that is just reapplication.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
reapplication all the time. Find one that, like I said, I put a stick in my purse And, you know, I use that if I need to. So,
Yeah, yeah. And one other thing I wanted to bring up too, Katie, as we're kind of going through common like sunscreen FAQs here, for those that are, I'm seeing new people join in as well. One of the biggest things that I think is another thing to look at when we are talking about sunscreen. So we talked about so far the differences between mineral and chemical sunscreen. We talked about who should be using sunscreen, everybody. We also talked about, you know, what is the difference between, you know, the UVA rays and the UVB rays and what broad spectrum is. Another thing that's really important, and I actually did this earlier this past like winter, spring time, is check the expiration dates on your SPF and your sunscreen. It is very important to check that. And Katie's pointing out right now, usually where they are located, like right at the top. And it's really important, especially, you know, to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success before the very hot months. Obviously, we wear sunscreen all year round, but as we just talked about, in the hotter months, we're having to reapply more. Right. Therefore, you're going to go through more sunscreen. So making sure that you have sunscreen that has good expiration or a good expiration date on it. There are articles and research that talk about usually there is a window after an expiration date of when you are still allowed to wear it. And again, I don't know the exact time frame, but again, AAD is a great resource. This is where Katie and I are pulling all of our information today for you to look that up. But again, it's just super important, especially like, let's say you bought a sunscreen last year that may have had an older expiration date. You may want to make sure that that expiration date is in that window of usage that will be okay for your skin, because Katie pointed this out earlier. If you are using an SPF that is expired or has been laying out in heat or in the sun, or if you smell it and it smells kind of funny, or if it looks kind of funny, chances are it's not good. And that means it's kind of a waste to put on sunscreen that has any of that criteria. So it's just super important that you're checking the sunscreen before you're putting it on your skin.
Yeah, absolutely. That smell is pretty ripe too. Like, you'll know. You'll know. You will open that and go, whoa, okay, we need to move on. It is not pleasant. So I have another question here. Can you explain why you're against sprays? Okay. I mean, I have, when my kids were little, I just feel that it's hard to know if you're really covering every inch of your child or even your body in general. So for me personally, and this is just my personal preference, like I don't trust that I'm going to be able to reach every spot. Now, when I was using sprays, I would either spray it in my hand, or if I am spraying it on my body, I'm still rubbing it in every place. So I don't just spray and go. So if I do have to use one, you will catch me rubbing it in to make sure I'm covering every inch. And I know for little kids, some just despise sunscreen and you really want to get them covered. So sprays are ideal for moms, and I respect that and understand that. I just recommend if you can take a minute and, you know, try to rub it in for them. You know, that's my tip and my reasoning. And you just kind of have to see if that works for you or not. But I don't prefer them. And that, you know, again, that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up, Katie, because I talked about this, I think, on some other type of forum like this or format, but there are so many people, like if you go to like a pool in the summertime, you see the parent spraying the kid with sunscreen, and it looks like the spray is going with the wind and not even going on the skin.
That's why I'm like, is it even working? Like, hello, bye,
right,
there you go.
Right. Exactly. So I think, you know, two things. One, to your point, Katie, like if you are going to use sunscreen, those that are listening, I mean, again, we're not here to tell you what you should use and what you shouldn't. Everybody's an adult on here, so they can make their own decisions. Right. But if you are going to use spray, make sure you're rubbing that in. When I still use spray sunscreen because I have found actually a couple brands that do have the the zinc
Yes.
oxide in it.
There
Like
are some
think,
good ones now.
yeah,
Yes.
think has good spray
And I
sunscreen. And so even with
trust
that, I
them.
just make sure I rub it in.
Yes.
And there was something else I
It's
was going to
pretty
bring
high content too. It's like 20%,
up.
which I was like, okay, I'll buy
Yeah.
you. That I'll buy. I'm in for that. And I've actually used it.
Yeah.
So I know it works well.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just got to make sure you're going to rub it in, whether it's
Yeah,
on yourself or your
I
kiddos.
agree.
So,
Totally
mhm.
agree. Let's see more comments here. I have stage 4 melanoma and I'm at the moment waiting for my 6 month scan. So anxious. Oh, I know how that goes. Scans are very nerve-wracking. I personally just keep myself busy. I try to let my mind not wander to the what ifs and all the dangers. Definitely stay away from my chart. I feel like my chart is like a double-edged sword. It's a love-hate relationship. I just like to hear it from the doctor, even if the my chart does say it's all clear. Like I personally wait for the doctor to tell me. But just keep your mind busy, stay in a happy course of mind, like do something fun, go to the movies or like, you know, stay with friends and family. I really just think it's good to get yourself on a positive mindset. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, worrying is not going to change the outcome, unfortunately, and I am guilty of that. I worry all the time, whether it's my own skin checks or my dad's scans. I mean, I'm a worry
Right.
wart, but I have learned over time that no matter how much I worry, it's not going to change the outcome. So I think, to your point, Katie, as much as possible, surround yourself with family and friends, do something you love, treat yourself, do some self-care,
Yeah.
to try to make sure that you're supporting yourself in the interim of waiting for results.
Yeah, totally. Completely. Let's see. I spray the spray in my hand and then rub it all over. Yep, that's exactly the way to go. It's also just like an easier make sure you get covered kind of thing. Like I don't know. And it goes back to just finding one you love. And if you love sprays, you love them. Like I'm not here to tell you not to use it. It's just what's the harm in rubbing it in?
Mm-hmm.
Takes 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, stay busy and distracted. That's what I was to do with stage 4. Yeah, it's just makes you feel just a little bit safe, not safer, but just in a happier frame of mind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Let's see, where are we at? Uh,
I think
um,
I think the last thing we kind of covered this a little bit. Um, the common sunscreen FAQ. Maybe talk about the last one, the high number SPF better than a lower number. Just kind of
yeah.
address that again before we get into the giveaway.
Yeah.
Um, Yes. So we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but doesn't hurt to kind of talk about it a little bit more. So SPF numbers, when you have a sunscreen, it either says SPF 4 or 15 or 30 or 50 or 70. I've seen as high as 80, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I lied. I've seen as high as
100.
100. There
Same.
is 100 out
Yeah,
there.
there is. It's always
So,
at Walmart. It's always at Walmart, the 101. I'm like,
Walmart.
why? Why?
That's so funny. So the answer is the higher the SPF, or the question is, does the higher the SPF mean it's protecting you better? And that is no, that's not what that means. What it
Yeah.
means is the number equates with the amount of minutes, like in time. So again, if you are wearing SPF 30, that, sunscreen, it is going to protect you for that amount of time. So like 30 minutes. If you're wearing SPF 50, 50 minutes, it gives you the window of what the protection factor is going to be. And it lets you know, okay, I will be needing to reapply this in X amount of time. So just because you're wearing SPF 100 doesn't mean you're good for the entire day. Just because you're wearing, I don't know, 2 layers of SPF 30, it doesn't mean that you made an SPF 60.
Yeah.
Really try to take that number with a grain of salt. Anything to add on that, Katie?
Yeah, I do want to read this off their website because I feel like this is a really good explanation. So it just says As many individuals only apply about 20 to 50% of the amount of sunscreen needed to achieve the amount of SPF on the label. Application of high SPF sunscreens help to compensate for this under application. So I didn't know that, but that
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So like if you feel like, especially if you're like one of those people that are in a rush for kids, for example, you might want to get the higher one because you know that under application, like it's saying. So that's very interesting. And yeah, you always want to do it every 2 hours and just keep up with it and reapply it in every space that your skin is available. Every space, ears, everything. Just cover head to toe, especially in these summer days coming up.
Yeah. So, so true. So, and like we mentioned, I know we've said this a couple of times before, but today's source of information that we are taking all of these FAQs and sunscreen basics from is the AAD, which is the American Academy of Dermatology.
Yep.
So I think I called them association in the beginning, so I apologize.
You know, it's actually, you're right though, because it's American Academy of Dermatology Association.
Okay,
So like
then
you
I was
had it.
right.
You had it in there. It just was mixed up a little bit. You're totally good. I always just call them AAD.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's like, what, people like us know what AAD is, so it's kind of works out good. Let's see, do we have any other questions in the comments? Okay, so if there are any questions, we're just going to leave that open for those who want to ask. Feel free to ask us anything. We have covered a lot of content today on sunscreen, various topics. You can easily get all this information off their website. It's just if you look up frequently asked questions on sunscreen, you will see everything we've talked about and more. There's a lot of topics that we did not get in, but you're more than welcome to read all that information and know that we are getting this from an appropriate source as well as our own personal preference. And I think this is a really been a very informative, fun topic. It's one that we definitely need to be talking about a lot. When we were in DC for advocacy days, it was actually a topic. It was one of our topics to talk with our legislators. And you and I were obviously in different states, so we were not together, but we did get to sit together and learn a lot about where we want to be with sunscreen versus where we are. There's a lot to be changed. There's a lot that we're learning still. And I really, really hope that we get to where Europe is. I really want to be there. And, knowing that Europe has a higher standard for their products really is, I love that thought. And that is what I'm going to leave you into our next live coming up.
Hint, hint.
Oh, thought you should join us. I thought I would drop that little dime. Lean into it. Let's see. Do you want to get this question from Megan?
Let's see. Can you guys touch on transferring sunscreen from original container? Ooh,
that is a
good question. Yeah, that is a good question, Megan. So obviously there are people that kind of like, let's say you're traveling and you don't want to take the full bottle of sunscreen. And let's say you want to measure out like a certain amount of sunscreen.
Right.
The recommended amount of sunscreen that individuals should be using for their body is a shot glass worth of sunscreen.
Just a lot.
Is quite a bit. Yes. So
indeed.
So if you're going to, let's say, pack sunscreen and not put it in the original container, there's a couple things you should be doing. One, you should be measuring out the amount that you think you're going to be using from that other container.
Yeah.
Another thing, label it and put the SPF on it and the expiration date. Because if somehow, let's say you don't use all of it, but you put it back in your cupboard or your cabinet or whatever, and then you open it up again and you're like, I wonder when I use this or how much is left or what have you. So it's just, again, kind of being smart about if you are going to transfer the sunscreen to another container, it does happen, and I've even done it before. You just have to make sure that the biggest things is how much you're actually putting in there, what the expiration date is on the sunscreen, the brand, and the SPF.
Absolutely. You just want to make sure that you have everything you need for a transfer. I personally never transferred an SPF before, but I understand why people do it, especially with traveling and all that. So, again, I think it just goes back to what you trust in yourself. And if you are able to remember, I don't remember things very well, so I personally prefer to keep it where it is. But I think it's a very good question, and there's probably more in-depth stuff on that. I think it's a really good question to dive into. Maybe we can do that, answer that better in our next one.
Yeah, for
That would
sure.
be a good one to kind of touch on.
Yeah.
Megan, helicopter. Just helicopter mom, girl, trust. I get that one. So am I. But like you said, Megan, that Solar Buddy is the best device I have ever seen for little kids, where you squeeze it into this container and it's like a little brush, and the kids can just take it and get them into like learning sunscreen and learning how fun it is to put on. It kind of makes them like feel like they're doing it on their own. I think the Solar Buddy is a very cool, and wish I would have had that as a little mom with little kids. So Megan, I totally trust what you're doing, and I think you know best for your kids and yourself. So trust yourself, and you also can look into find more information. I would love to know more too myself.
Mhm. No, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So we don't have any more questions in here. Megan, the mineral versus sunscreen, we did talk about that earlier. You can definitely rewatch this. This live will be reposted if you did miss anything, especially in the beginning. Will be available on both our pages, so feel free to rewatch. We would love to hear your comments and questions. And now we are gonna do a giveaway. You like my little
oh,
jingle?
I loved it. I loved it. It was great.
Okay, so when we were planning this whole live and the lives for the month, we wanted to really just incorporate what we love and the sunscreens that we've kind of, and this is kind of touched on in the beginning, but we wanted to do ones that you can buy at maybe your local drugstore. They might not be at yours, or they might be a little harder to find depending where you live. But we wanted to find a good quality sunscreen. For me, like I told you, mine is a zinc based in the ingredients. It's what I love and what I look for. So the one that I chose is just that, zinc based. I can get it at the grocery store. And I actually bought it today and it was only $12.99. It's not a gigantic bottle, everyone, but it is a bottle that will last you, and it's SPF 50. And for those of you that don't know what EWG is, it is a website that rates beauty products and especially SPF. So this is rated a number 2 on the EWG list, which is primo. It is and lasts 80 minutes in the sun. It's sweat proof. It's also zinc of 23%. Killer. That is really good. It's going to last you. It will be probably, this is probably one of my go-tos I use the most. And it's free of like chemicals and all that stuff. So what about yours? I didn't tell you what it is yet because we'll show you afterwards, but why don't you talk about yours?
Okay, I'm so glad you did it that way, because now I know how to do mine. Because I would have been like, here it is. I actually did something a little different than Katie. So my sunscreen is a hybrid formula. So it has both chemical and mineral filters in it. So it's
Cool.
kind of like a 50-50 type sunscreen. It is a SPF 30 for both the face and body. It is water resistant for up to 80 minutes, and it is suitable for people who have sensitive skin. And I am one of those people, also dry skin. And what I really like about it, this is a sunscreen that I love using on my runs because, you know, I'm not standing there rubbing in mineral sunscreen for a really long time before I, you know, go out for a run because you have to wait 15 minutes and the whole shebang. So this is actually nice. It rubs in nicely. And even though it's a hybrid, again, chemical and mineral sunscreen, it goes on like very sheer and clear, which is really nice. So I believe that's everything. And this one has, you talked about zinc oxide percentage. This one has 7%. So not as high as Katie's, but again, it's something that I really like and that works for my skin.
Okay, so very cool. Totally two different sunscreens, which is really fun. Which I think for how we wanted to do this giveaway was kind of like an interactive kind of feel. So I know some of you might not have been here this entire time, and I understand that, but we kind of wanted to do like a kind of an answering kind of thing. So if you want to go ahead and tell everyone how they win, well, I can show you mine. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. You ready?
Okay, ready?
Ready?
So you do it at the same time?
1, 2, 3.
Oh,
Here we go, everyone. We have a CeraVe and a Think Sport. Whoa! So you will win both SPFs today. We will mail them to you right away. You will be the winner, and you will get to try Leah's favorite, my favorite drugstore sunscreen.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us how they can win?
Are we just asking them a question and then whoever gets the right answer?
Yeah.
Is that how we do it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then is it going to be we pick the top 2 people that answer it quickly?
Right.
Okay.
So this is you kind of have to basically whoever answers first will be the winner. We kind of just thought it would be a kind of funner, interactive vibe. This is the first time we've ever done it this way, so you guys will have to let us know if this doesn't work. So we're going to ask a question just based off of what we've talked about today. So Leah, if you want, do you want to, we didn't really pick the question.
I know. I was like, I want Katie to ask the question because I don't know
I will definitely ask the question.
Okay.
I think that's totally fine.
And I'll keep an eye on the 2 winners. Does that sound good?
So you get to pay attention to that. Okay. We're going to go to this right here. This isn't going to be really hard. I just want everyone to know. I'm just randomly picking one. This was one thing I think will be pretty easy.
Okay.
Okay. This will be like, should I do true or false? Or
do
actually answer?
Yeah.
Oh, true or false?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll do true or false. One moment, everyone. I know it's like kind of, okay. Okay. Even on cloudy days, the harmful rays penetrate through the clouds at 70%. True or false? Whoever can answer that correctly first will win. True or false? First come, first serve.
Oh, I see our first 2. R.R. Hines Posh said true. Dear Chronic Pain was the second that said true.
Is this true? 70%. We got a lot is true so far.
Mm-hmm.
Another true. Leah, do you know the answer?
I think I know the answer.
What is the answer?
You tell me the answer.
Well, as soon as let's see if we can get going on a couple more responses.
Okay.
And then we can pick our winners.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 people have said true.
8 people said true. Okay. I might have to ask a different question. It's actually false. It's 80%. It's not 70%.
Oh boy.
So we're going to do another question since we didn't get the right answer. I feel like that's fair. Let's see. The next question we will do. Creams are best for oily skin when applying on the face. True or false? Like a cream sunscreen. True or false? You're like,
I'm pondering.
Is that true? Is it false? Dun, dun, dun.
I don't want to influence the crowd, so I'm like, what is it?
Okay, we have two winners right there. Dear Chronic Pain, and it's false. It was actually for dry skin, so they got it right here.
Yay!
Good.
Dear Chronic Pain and P. Marie Jones, 1831
are our winners. I'm going to write this down. So we have our winners. So if you both could DM your information so we can mail these out. We need them either both of them to both of us, or you can like individually, because Leah has one obviously and I have one. So we both need the information from both of you. So you can both message us or just message one of us and we'll share. Yeah. So really excited, guys. Thanks for playing our sun safety giveaway. I feel like I need music or something.
I know. We need like a little like drum or like a little xylophone or something.
Literally. I need like a dun dun dun. It's so fun. So we will mail out. You will get the Think Sport and the CeraVe 30, which I'm super excited for you guys to try. Please let us know what you think. I'm very curious if you enjoy them as much as I do. And I also think that, you know, we are two people who have learned so much, especially, you know, doing Washington, D.C. and just learning from our stories and each other and the community. And we really just like to try to do some fun, lighthearted, educational chats. You know, that's what me and Leah kind of have discovered is our thing. So, I am really glad everybody was here. I think this is super fun and a lot of us just being interactive and joining and chatting. I appreciate everybody who has like been involved and just being here with us. We are definitely going to be back. Leah, why don't you give them a little more insight on our next chat?
Yes. So our next chat is actually going to be on May 13th. So a week from today will be our next IG Live. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it's going to involve. We already dropped a hint a little earlier, but it is still going to involve sunscreen. I'll just leave it at that. Yes. And then we're going to do a final live at the end of May, and that is also going to revolve around sun safety. But that is going to be a really special one on a very special day. And we'll talk maybe a little bit more about that on the next live. Yes.
Agreed. Totally. And I am glad everybody was here. I love that, you know, May's going so well for everyone. I think we're just doing a great job sharing everything. And I didn't realize that we were going to be chatting on Melanoma Monday until I guess I forgot. I don't even know. But I'm like, oh, look at us. Melanoma Monday. This is perfect. So I love that we can end the live and today on a high, and you know, giveaways are so fun. And this is just me and Leah. You know, this isn't sponsored. This isn't, you know, donated by any means. This is just me and Leah being me and Leah and just trying to give back to the people we love. So I'm glad you guys were here. We appreciate you being here. This will be reposted, and we hope you guys join us on May 13th.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you all.
See you later, everyone.
All right. Bye.